Well, hello and welcome to the Daily Scripture Podcast. My name is Jerome Lavelle, and I hope that you're having a lovely day today. Today we will be looking at the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verses 1 through 11. Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, but early in the morning he arrived again in the temple area, and all the people started coming to him. And he sat down and he taught them. Then the scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery and made her stand in the middle. They said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say?" They said this to test him, so they could have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and began to write on the ground with his finger. But when they continued asking him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again he bent down and wrote on the ground. And in response they went away one by one, beginning with the elders. So he was left alone with the woman before him. Then Jesus straightened up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She replied, "No one, sir." Then Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on do not sin anymore." Today, in the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verses 1 through 11, we hear the story of the adulterous woman. Although there is some controversy around this account in this story, it may not have been in the earliest extant manuscripts. It is nonetheless one of the most cherished stories by many Christians. And this includes me. I absolutely love it. Partially because of the kindness, care, wisdom, and justness that Jesus exhibits in handling the situation, this trap being set by his distractors, and partially because of the drama that I imagine in this scene as described by John. Here are the basics. 1, the scribes and Pharisees bring a woman reputed to be caught in adultery to Jesus. In some traditions, this woman is connected with other Bible accounts as Mary Magdalene. 2, they ask him what he recommends, knowing that the Mosaic law prescribes stoning. Again, they're trying to build a case against him, to entrap him. 3, he asserts in response that those who are without sin should cast the first stone. 4, one by one, the crowd leaves. 5, he asks her, "Woman, where are your accusers now?" And she notes that they are gone. Jesus says, "No one here is condemning you, and neither do I." And then 6, he ends the conversation with, "Go forth and sin no more." In this passage, Jesus reinforces themes that we see and hear elsewhere in the Gospels regarding the scribes and the Pharisees and his teachings that he's trying to imbue upon them. I see teachings such as perspective. We know that Jesus says, "Remove first the plank from your own eye, then worry about the splinter in your neighbor's eye." We know that he talks about the measure with which you measure will be measured out against you. So he's getting at this notion of perspective. We hear him talking about forgiveness. He says, "Unless you forgive, you will not be forgiven." Peter asks him, "How many times must I forgive?" He says, 77 times. So he's teaching the scribes and the Pharisees and those gathered about forgiveness. He's also teaching about his calling when they ask this question. He says, "The healthy do not need a physician. I have come to call the sick, not the righteous. And so his handling of this adulterous woman. And so I see a lot of power in the what of Jesus' message today, what he said and how he handled this scenario, perspective, forgiveness, and to whom he was called. But I also see power in how Jesus handled this scenario. Imagine this scene with me. Jesus is in Jerusalem. He traveled out to the Mount of Olives. He's now returned, and people are starting to gather around him. He sits down with them, and he is teaching them, no doubt changing and inspiring their hearts. In a rush in this scene, the scribes and the Pharisees cut through this crowd and confront him with this woman. And what does he do? He lowers himself and writes in the dirt. Can't you see this scene? He lowers himself, and by doing so, lowers the entire drama down. He takes a non-threatening posture. He traces his finger in the sand, distracting and redirecting their energy and their purpose. Can't you see him stooped there? Then he raises his eyes to them and gives them his response to the question concerning the stoning. He doesn't fall into their trap. He doesn't say, set her free. He doesn't say, what she did isn't that important. He doesn't say, Moses got it all wrong from God. No, he says effectively this, yes, the law prescribes that she should be stoned for her offenses. And let's do it, guys. Let those among you here who are without sin be the first to cast that stone. Brilliant. He has effectively outfoxed the foxes. And in this scene, when his eyes looked up at them, their eyes, one by one, dropped down when they understood the importance of his words. They dropped their heads, they dropped their charges against the woman, and they dropped their stones. Today, my reflection is on both the what and the how Jesus handles this situation. May his example today help inform me in my quest to build up his kingdom in my life and in this world. Thank you for joining the Daily Scripture Podcast. My name is Jerome Lavelle, and remember, our word of the day is the what and the how. Until next time, be well and be blessed.